Hello and welcome to Knit Cheek. My name is Natalie and I am the cheek behind Knit Cheek, and today I'm talking all about the LA yarn crawl. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Natalie and I talk about knitting on the internet, and today I am talking all about the LA yarn crawl and everything that I bought. This is my bag that I acquired during the LA yarn crawl, and I'll talk about it. And all of the things that I bought are nicely tucked into this bag. My goal was actually not to buy more that fit into this bag, and I did okay. We're good. We're not overflowing. We are in the bag. So I went to the LA yarn crawl and I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to talk about my experience and everything that I did and my favorite stores and everything that I bought. So the LA yarn crawl was held over 4 days from May 15th to May 18th. And this is an annual event, and this is their 13th year doing the LA yarn crawl. This year there were 12 stores participating, and that's a lot of stores. That's a lot of yarn stores. So the goal of the yarn crawl is to hit all 12 yarn stores, and you get a passport, and each store will stamp your passport. And if you go to all 12 stores, you are entered to win one of their prizes. There were 3 prizes, and the biggest one was like a $200 gift card to all of the stores. It's called like LA Yarn Crawl Bucks, so you can use it at any of the stores, which I thought was pretty cool. On top of that, every store was doing their own raffle. A lot of stores had free patterns they were giving out. I think most of the stores had a featured yarn that was 10% off. So a lot going on over the weekend. They also came out with this bag this year. They have a bag every year, but this bag I feel like is kind of special because it has all 12 of the stores, and then each store would give you a pin when you went to their store. And I don't know if this was the official way we were doing it, but I put all my pins on the stores that I went to. This is really cool because you could see other participants walking around with their bags with their pins and know what stores they had already gone to. And it was kind of cool, like, to know which stores they went to and which stores they hadn't been to and how that compared to your own bag. So I loved this idea. Honestly, this was a huge reason why I wanted to do this, because I wanted one of these bags. So you can see that I did not make it to all 12 stores. I made it to 8 stores, and that was a lot. Power to anyone who made it to 12, because that's impressive. On top of that, a lot of the stores also had like pop-up vendors or like indie dyers set up in the shop selling their yarn. So there was just a lot of shopping and a lot to take in. I am from Southern California and I have been to LA many a time, and I would say that I'm fairly familiar with the layout of LA. But LA is a beast. It's a beast of its own. No city compares to LA with traffic and timing and distance. Like, a store could be 10 miles away from another store, and it could be an hour drive. My friend and I decided to go Thursday and Friday, and the LA Yarn Crawl does have a map on their website, so I will definitely show you pictures of that. And we kind of mapped out our must-see stores. Of those was the Little Knittery, Wool House, Buku Yarns, Wild Fiber Studio, and the Knitting Tree LA. These were the ones that we had to see. Everything else, if we had time, we would go to. So our direction and our plan of action was based off of that. And now that I know what I know, obviously I feel like it wasn't the best idea to do what we did. Like I said, I know LA, but I just don't know which way the traffic goes at what time in the city. Like outside of the city, it makes sense to me. It goes in the morning and out in the afternoon, but within the city, I don't know. The LA Yarn Crawl is also Los Angeles County, so it is a bit bigger than the actual city of Los Angeles. There is a good amount of distance between all 12 stores. Of the 8 stores, I think the shortest distance I had to drive was 20 minutes, but the average was 50. Almost every store that I would put in my maps when we were at the store we were shopping at to get to the next store was 50 minutes. I am so serious when I say that Thursday, because I was driving, once we left, I never really had a chance to chill. Like, I was either driving, shopping, or shoving food in my face to try to get to as many stores as possible. And we left at like 9:20 a.m. and we got to our hotel at 9 p.m. Day 1, we hit Boku Yarns, Wool House Pasadena, the Little Knittery, which is, it's not downtown, but it's near downtown. It's Silver Lake. Then we hit Wild Fiber Studio in Santa Monica, and then the Knitting Tree, which I think is in Inglewood or Torrance. I don't know. Some of those like city areas like blend together, and I don't know exactly what city it's in. Mr. Cheek is much better at this. And when I told him the story of the route that we took, he was literally rolling his eyes at me like, why did you go back to the store you were right next to? And I was like, I don't know. Day 2 was slower. Day 2 was slower, and also it was Friday, so we were doomed from the beginning when it comes to traffic. So day 2, we left our hotel in Huntington Beach, and we hit Alamitos Bay Yarn Company, La Tilliere in Redondo Beach, and then we hit the Altered Stitch in Van Nuys. We were also limited by the hours of the store, which I think the hours were good. I mean, all the stores were open from 10 to 6, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I believe 10 to 4 or 12 to 4 on Sunday, one of those. So Thursday, I think we could have gone to one more store, but we just ran out of time. If you're from LA, you're probably also rolling your eyes at me. I know now better for next year, if there will be a next year. We'll see. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to convince my friend to do this with me again, but I may convince Mr. Cheek to drive me around to do this next year. Overall, the experience was super fun, super exhausting, and eye-opening. Like, I feel like now I know where my favorite stores are in the Los Angeles area, and some of them are as close as 35 minutes, and then the furthest one is probably Van Nuys or Santa Monica, which is like an hour plus, like hour 10, hour 15, unless there's traffic. Unless there's traffic, then there's just, traffic is a whole beast in Southern California. You have to know times, and I know times in a broader sense, but just not within that county. I just wasn't aware of like which way was going. I'm doing a lot of this. Now I'm going to talk about each shop that I visited, and I'm also going to show you the yarn that I purchased from each shop. And I'll give you a little bit of information on each shop. LA Yarn Crawl does have a really great website, and all of the shops are listed on their website along with like their Instagram and their website and like a little bit about each shop. You know what? I decided my summer stash is different from my regular stash. They're two different entities. They do not connect, and they are not responsible for each other, because summer knitting is just, I didn't have any summer yarn, and now I have plenty. So shop number 1 is Boku Yarns, and they are actually the closest to us. I have been to this store before, and I love their yarn selection. They have great yarn selection. They have a lot of Amano, they have a lot of Cascade, they have their own yarn that they dye themselves, Boku Yarn. So yeah, I love this store, and I already knew that I loved this store, but I was reminded of how lucky I am to have a store that close to me with such great yarn selection. And I will definitely be hitting up this store more often. I just needed a little reminder of how close it is after driving to LA. So Boku Yarns had a little pop-up for a new wool dyer. They said this is her debut, and she is Wool Garden. I picked up 4 minis to make some type of sock with. I bought this because I really love Blueface Luster socks. I've only ever made the one sock, but I really loved it. So it's 80% superwash Blueface Luster and 20% nylon. So I figured I could make a striped pink mauve sock with the 4 of these. Next up, we hit Wool House, which is in Pasadena. This is before I made driving mistakes, because that makes sense. Laverne to Pasadena makes total sense. It's on the way. They carry Brooklyn Tweed, Woolfolk, Blue Sky Fibers, Madeline Tosh, Knit Collage, Malabrino, Juniper Moon, Flying Kettle, Amarismo, Pom Pom Quarterly, and many others. I did get to see a lot of that there. Someone told me that they focus mostly on natural, non-superwash yarns, and I believe that by being in there, but I don't see that on the website, but like, everything in there was non-superwash. I think the only thing that had nylon in it was like their sock yarns. I picked up some of the last Brooklyn Tweed tones. This is new to me yarn, and I know it's closing, but I really, really loved it, and I'm really, really sad. This is Nimbus in Overtone worsted weight yarn. I just have been really into this blue lately. I have 100 grams of this for a beanie. I then picked up a couple of sock minis just because I have never heard of this sock yarn, and this is Cottage Sock Coats & Co. And I just thought a couple of green skeins of this would make for some nice color work or alternating colors, contrast colors in a pair of socks. So that was Wool House. Pasadena is a beautiful part of LA. The yarn store is kind of tucked in an area that's next to Vroman's, which is like one of my favorite bookstores. And then just around the corner, there's Earth Cafe, which is where we had lunch. We just grabbed a quick bite to eat, and a coffee, and then we're on our way to the next store. The next store that we went to was the Little Knittery, which was in that Echo Park Silver Lake area. I'm not 100% sure actually the neighborhood, but it's somewhere over there. It's a really small store, but they pack a lot of yarn in there. And the interior of the store was really cute. They had like these really fun labels on all the yarn. So they carry Loopy Mango, Malabringo, Baroku, Cascade, Ilmani, Universal Yarns, Dream in Color, Circular, and Noro. And they have this really cool mural on the wall of all the women wearing their pink, like, what are they called? The pink pussycat beanies during the march, the women's march. And the designer of that original beanie was, I don't know if she's the owner, if she just works there, but she was there and we got to meet her, and that was really cool. So what I bought from the Little Knittery, I fell pretty hard for this yarn. It is Ilmani Sabri, and it is 85% organic cotton and 15% baby alpaca. And I bought 3 skeins of this to make a tea. I'm going to make the Sunshine Tea by Andrea Gahn. I challenged myself to pick a color, even though I really, really wanted to buy the cream yarn. And I told myself, you know what, I could buy the cream yarn later if I love this yarn. But I went out of my comfort zone and decided to go with this yellow. It's really yellow. And I think if it was slightly more mustard yellow, I wouldn't feel as apprehensive about it. I am like still a little bit on the fence. It's a little bright, but I do really like it. And I do think that it looks good with the skin color complexion thing that I got going on, you know, that I was born with. Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I'm really excited to make a bright yellow tea, and I'm excited that it's a color that is out of my comfort zone. Okay, that was the Little Knittery, which is in Los Feliz, I guess, which is a neighborhood in LA. I thought it was Silver Lake, but it's really close to Silver Lake. It's really close to East Hollywood. Anyways, next up we headed down to Santa Monica to visit Wild Fiber Studio. And this store is stunning. It is so open and there was so much light in there, and their way of showcasing the yarn really stood out to me as just being really open and really easy to see. Everything was clearly labeled and I loved it. I would definitely go back to this store. Wild Fiber Studios was the largest yarn store that we visited during the yarn crawl, and because it was so large, they had a lot of yarn. They really did have a huge amount of yarn there, but they weren't like super packed in like some of the other stores with less real estate. So it was nice and open and just easy to shop, a really great shopping experience. And they had a lot of stuff there. A lot of stuff that I've never gotten to touch that I was able to touch, and that was probably one of my favorite parts of this yarn crawl. From Wild Fiber Studio, I picked up some Sea Change cotton yarn. This is their Bayshore fingering, and it is 25% merino rambouillet and 75% cotton. And I did not know that she had this blend until I went to the store. It was their featured yarn. Actually, it wasn't their featured yarn because every store had a featured yarn that was like 10% off. This was just a pop-up yarn. So it was like a vendor table that they had all of this yarn. They had other bases from Seashore, but I was really drawn to this because it's a summer yarn and that's kind of like the theme. This is Shark Beach. I do really like this color. It's a beautiful denim-y color. And my favorite thing about this yarn is the yardage. There are 550 yards. So I have 1,100 yards, and I feel like I could do a lot with that when it comes to summer knitting. So I was able to just stick to 2 skeins. I feel like I have so many options of what I can make with this, but I definitely see myself knitting a tee with this one. So I have 2 tea quantities from this trip. The next store we went to was the Knitting Tree in Inglewood. And this store is famous for, the owner is the designer of the emotional support chicken, that viral chicken that everyone was making. And she had kits at her store with everything that you needed to make the chicken, and they were really cute. The packaging was adorable. My friend wanted to go to the store really badly to pick up this yarn or this package kit for the emotional sport chicken. So she got that. They had, what do they have? I can't remember what kind of yarn that they had there. They had a lot of vendors, like pop-ups there, I think they had 3 of them, and it took up like the majority of the inside of the store. And this was the last store, and I was tired. I didn't buy anything from the store because I was emotionally recovering from all the traffic. The drive from Santa Monica to Inglewood was another hour, and we only had half an hour before the store closed. So I was just processing and also like starving. But my friend did buy the chicken kit from here. I did want to talk about one of the vendors they had was a indie dyer who dyes on non-superwash yarn, which I thought was really cool. I touched a lot of her yarn. I didn't make a purchase because, like I said, I was just tired. Fiction Fiber, and I will definitely be looking out for yarn for her in the future for when I have like a project in mind. I also felt like I wasn't in the headspace to buy woolly yarn on this trip because I just like really only have summer in my mind. But I did get to touch a lot of woolly yarns that I think I will buy in the future, or just like now that I know that they are available locally is great for me to just have that up here. What am I saying? My friend graciously got us a hotel in Huntington Beach, and we put in the time from Knitting Tree LA to the hotel in Huntington Beach, and it was like an hour and 20 minutes. So it's 6 p.m. We're like, let's get something to eat. So we went and tried to find something to eat. I asked my brother because my brother used to live near Inglewood, and he suggested some like Indian pizza place. So we went there. It was really good. And then killed some time for traffic to die down. I don't know how. Ended up at the hotel at like 9 p.m. Got a beverage and then went to sleep. And I was so tired. That was a lot of driving. Like, we probably could have driven to San Francisco and back over these 2 days. No joke. Day 2 was the shortest drive, and that's because we had the hotel in Huntington Beach. We went to the Alamitos Bay Yarn Company. And that was by far the coolest location of a yarn store because it's like right on the water. They had a lot of weaving yarns, and they had 2 people weaving in front of it as like a demonstration, which was really cool. A lot of beautiful yarns, a lot of wool yarns. They did have Pasquale, I hope I'm saying that right, which is a yarn that I've been interested in purchasing for the Purl jacket, and so now I know it's there and I got to touch it, and that was cool. Beautiful yarn store. I would definitely go back if I was in that area. Just a great store location. Absolutely gorgeous. So after Alamitos Bay Yarn Store, we decided to hit up L'Atelier. There are actually 2 of these yarn stores, and one of them was in Redondo Beach. We went to Redondo Beach mostly just because I really like that area and I wanted to go check out what yarn store was there. This is a yarn store in a beautiful area, a beautiful store, and it had some of the wildest yarn I've ever seen in my life. The store was crazy. Like, we went in, and one of the first balls of yarn that I grabbed was like $200 for a skein. So they have really, really high-end cashmere yarns, and then out of this world glittery fantastical yarns. I've never seen anything like it. It wasn't my style, but it's just really cool and really unique. And there was so many women in there who were, obviously this was their style, knitting things in this yarn. And it isn't a very rich area, so like it makes sense that they carry a lot of cashmere. They did have some other yarns that were like more in a price range that I could handle, and like woolly yarns as well. We decided to head over to the Altered Stitch. This is, I think, where we talked about hitting maybe more stores on the way, and decided that we just wanted to go to the stores that we wanted to instead of try to hit as many stores as possible just to fill out the passport and to get the pins because we were just tired. Next up was the Altered Stitch in Van Nuys. So one of the customers of Altered Stitch bought the business and is now carrying it on. And we wanted to go here because we went on Instagram or some website and saw that they had a bunch of indie dyed yarn. I want to say Redondo Beach to the Altered Stitch was probably an hour, maybe 50 minutes. At this point, like, I was just like, here we go. Here's another hour in the car. So the Altered Stitch carried a ton of Twisted Ambition yarn. And he is a dyer, I believe, from Oklahoma. Okay, another state that starts with an O. He had so much beautiful yarn. He was there knitting, and he had so much beautiful yarn and samples of all the yarn. Like, he would knit up sock tubes of a lot of the yarn. That was really cool to see all this variegated fun yarns in like a sample. Other than that, they had one other indie dyer. I can't remember the other indie dyed yarn, and honestly I can't remember what like stock yarn they had because at this point my brain had completely left my head. But I am really glad I got to go to the store. We got to meet the new owner, and she was really cool. And I did purchase a skein of fingering sock yarn and a little contrast color I love knitting socks. I'm happiest when I'm knitting socks, and this is bringing me joy. I don't know if I'm going to do like a little colorwork motif or a cuff heel toe or maybe like the striped cuff thing, but this is the yarn that I picked up from that store. I almost picked up another skein of sock yarn from the other indie dyer. It was like a bright flamingo pink, but decided against it just because I was like, nah, I'm okay. I just need one thing of sock yarn because I remembered that I bought all those other sock minis. So that was the last store that we went to as one of the 8 stores that we went to. And this is where I used the restroom. And while I was in the restroom, I checked the map on the way home and was slapped in the face with 3.5 hours of drive time. Not to home, but to where we met in Redlands. And I told my friend, I was like, I have devastating news. This is also the only store I think we didn't get a picture of us in front of it because we left kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe it's going to take this long. We went to McDonald's, got some iced tea and some french fries, and made the trek back home. We decided we would stop at Boku Yarns on the way home. We just needed a bathroom break. We needed a break. And we love Boku Yarns. We wanted to go again. So we stopped by there, used the bathroom, said hello to Amanda, the owner, told her all about our trip, and then another hour home. So it broke it up. It was like 2 hours and then an hour and something minutes. I think we got home at like 6:30. So we left the hotel at like 9:20, got Starbucks, hit the first store like at 9:50 right before they opened, drove to Redondo and then Van Nuys, and then drove home and still didn't get home until like 6 after the stop at Boku Yarns to use the bathroom. So that was another really long day. And I was so tired. I did all the driving. We drove my car. I drive a Prius, so it was like economical. And my friend is always driving me around, so I had no problem doing it. But it was exhausting. Don't do it on a Friday. If you're going to do it, don't do it on a Friday. Unless you're just going to hit up like a couple of stores that are close to each other. Okay, now I'm going to talk about my 3 favorite yarn shops that we went to over this LA yarn crawl. And my favorite is Boku Yarns, honestly. Like, I know that the closest to me, but I really liked her selection of yarn. I feel like she's just the buyer, the owner who buys the yarn has a really similar taste to me. So I love that store. I also really enjoyed Wool House in Pasadena. I love that they carry all natural yarns and they had a lot of new to me yarns there. And they also had an indie dyer there as well who dyed on non-superwash bases. Woolly Warbler is the name of that indie dyer and it is dyed in Los Angeles. Definitely would go back there and suggest it. My third of the top 3 is Wild Fiber Studio in Santa Monica. The store was just beautiful. There's really nothing more I could say about how open and enjoyable that experience was to shop. I would definitely go back there. So those were my top 3. I also really did enjoy the Altered Stitch. She's just getting started, so I feel like she has so much room to grow and expand her yarn, but what she had there was really cool and I would love to see where she takes that. Would I do the LA yarn crawl again? I think I would. I don't think I'm gonna convince my friend to go with me again. I think she was done, but I think I would go over Saturday and Sunday and I would probably just hit up the stores that I already know that I love and just not pressure myself to hit all of them, or maybe hit 1 or 2 new ones that I haven't been to if they were close enough to the other ones. But overall, it was really, really fun. I really enjoyed myself. I got to meet a lot of really cool people and buy a lot of really fun yarn. Thank you for watching me ramble all about my experience for the LA Yarn Crawl, where I hit 8 stores in 2 days, which is pretty impressive to me. If you hit 12 stores, you had to be like timing yourself because there's just no way you can do that while letting yourself like shop. You'd have to time yourself. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see what I make with all of this beautiful yarn, and I will see you next time. Bye.